It's a town council meeting, June 20th, 2017. Call to order.
Council Ringman? Here. Council Callum? Council Terry?
Yes.
Council Boyajin?
Yes.
Council Barone?
Present.
Council Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Boncory? President Sanford?
Here. June 6th, town council minutes have been circulated. We need a motion. Motion's been made. I have a second.
I'll second that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. One abstention. Presentation is next on our agenda. Senator Joe Boncory was supposed to be here. He has a conflict tonight, so he will be here in a future meeting. But this time, I have another presentation. We have a special guest in our audience, Superintendent John Massero. I'd like to acknowledge his 6 years as superintendent, all of his hard work, and reestablishing the town of Winthrop in the education side of things. John's put his heart and soul. I said last night at a school committee meeting, I've been a loyal groupie of John Massero for years. When he was in Saugus, he had my nieces. They loved him. The school system loved him. Revere had cousins over there. They loved him. And we have him back here. We're losing him, unfortunately, but he's done a wonderful job. And he'll be part of the community going forward. So, John, thank you for everything you've done. We've got a certificate up here. We'd like you to come up and... Let it be known to all of Winthrop Town Council hereby offers its congratulations to John Massero, the recognition of Superintendent of Schools here in Winthrop in 2011-2017. On behalf of the residents of the town of Winthrop, we extend the most sincere congratulations to John in his new venture as Superintendent of the Stoneham School System, and offer best wishes in all endeavors, knowing your heart will always be here in Winthrop. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
You have any family in Stoneham?
Do I have family in Stoneham? Yeah. And any of the council would like to speak to John, feel free to do so.
Thank you, John, for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Washington.
John, why don't you come back here? We're going to take a picture,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Then I'll let the council speak if they choose to.
How you doing?
How are you?
Hey.
Mr. Sam, you didn't fool around. Is this good?
Good. Look right here. Looking. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any of the councils have any comments? Mr. Massero, please feel free.
President?
Yes.
The one thing that was left out of there is John has been very dedicated to the community as he served on the school committee here in Winthrop for
That's right.
a number of years. So his commitment to the town is not just as an employee, but also as a public official and dedicated public servant.
And I must say, I've never seen a more visible superintendent. He's everywhere. It's amazing how many events he's been to over the years, and he's been a tremendous asset for the town. I thank him for his service.
And can I just add, the police chief and myself, he brought public safety back into the public schools. Every one of the schools numerous times in the course of the school year. The world has changed since John took our school system over. We have lockdown drills and shelter-in-place drills, and I think the school, and we have school bus drills. We've come a long way public safety-wise. We're up with anybody.
I mean, the only other thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I did out what everyone said, I think.
I was just gonna say that he brought the band back together. He got them, he's got the band that's getting ready to play stuff.
And another thing, he brought the arts back. That's what was mentioned last night at the school committee meeting. We were weighted on the athletic side, and you brought the recognition back to the arts and so on and so forth. So thank you, John. Absolutely.
Since I have the floor for a second, I just want to take a moment to thank you folks too. I think it's important. When it came on 6 years ago, there was a sense of town versus school, and I think that we worked hard together. Jim and I became, we were right next door to each other, which I think was a great move for the town at that time, was to put the superintendent in the town hall. And through the course of the years, we've explained to you what our needs are, and you've always listened. And we've been able to, through the support of the town council and the school committee together, we were able to build a brand new high school, middle school. We've been able to build a new track and field. We've been able to do a lot. And I just thank you for your service as well, because it's not easy what you do, and I appreciate it, I respect it, and I look forward to watching your future meetings here, but I will always push for education in the town of Winthrop. But I just wanted to make sure that I let you know. And it's been a joy working with the town side. You know, in this role, a lot of times you just deal with education, but having the opportunity to really get to know my colleagues on the Monday morning town meetings that we've had with the fire chief, the police chief, the DPW director, inspectional services, HR, everybody working together, it's been a pleasure. So, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
We have another presentation which we're waiting. Here comes the guest of honor. So maybe we'll give it a minute. Joel in the audience yet? Is Joe here?
They're all walking in right now.
Oh, they're all coming in now?
Yes.
Thank you.
They're all parking.
Oh, okay. We can maybe go through the public. It's okay, we'll go through public hearing. And then we'll continue with presentation. Is that all right? Huh? Yeah. We're going to open up two public hearings. One's to transfer $50,000 to the gazebo repair. Open up public hearing. Any comments from the public?
This is a project that's been on our capital plan for some time. It's time because of the deteriorated state of the gazebo. The project it also envisions additional guardrail around a certain area to protect the park from recent events of intrusion onto the property that we've spent money to recede, but unfortunately has suffered from some events of vehicles coming into the plant. So it encompasses that as well. But the gazebo needs a serious facelift and attention immediately because of its condition.
Yeah, okay. Anything Steve, you might add? DPW
Yeah,
director?
so the money would go towards a new roof, being proposed as a metal standing roof, wood restoration, cement restoration, electrical upgrades, which are, some things over there that aren't code at this point. And then as the manager spoke to, guardrail to protect the inside part.
Yeah, it's very important. Any other comments?
Mr. President,
Down the end? Council?
the Finance Committee met on this earlier tonight and did come up with a positive recommendation for the Town Council.
Okay, great. So we'll be hearing that later on under old business.
Yes.
Any other comments regarding the gazebo? If none, public hearing is closed. Next public hearing is the Verizon pole on Veterans Road. Public hearing is now open. Yeah, Councilor.
Council President, the Department of Public Works Subcommittee of the Council met and discussed this last night. The pole is located at approximately 130 Shirley Street, near Veterans Road, and it's to upgrade service to that building, and there'll be a positive recommendation coming out of the committee on that.
Any other comments regarding Verizon pole, Veterans Road, 130 Veterans Road? Yes, sir.
I'm from National Grid, I was here to speak on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yes, just as the councilor said, the customer requested three-phase power, so we decided to design a pole in its own transformer bank on the pole.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
While we have you, would it be inappropriate to talk about the transformer over on Metcalf Square?
That's out of my league.
Oh, it's out of your league? Okay. What I'd like to do through the town manager's office is invite them. This has happened too many times over there. It knocked out the fire department, the police department, as well as town hall, and a lot of the businesses in Metcalf Square. So going forward, I'd really like to have them come in and let's talk about a final fix for this because it's
I'll mention it to the,
good powers to be.
the representative.
Yeah, and we'd like to have someone come before the council. Any other comments regarding Verizon pole on Veterans Road? Public hearing? If none, public hearing is closed. We're going to go back to presentations. I saw Joe Aiello, Mike Ruzioni come in, and a few other folks. Joe is here. This guy, I recognize you. Joe, welcome. I don't know if you're set up yet, or we've got a...
So stick.
Oh, David.
Do I need to get David? No. Yes, that doesn't work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night, Council.
Good night. Joe, before we start, why don't you just give, if you don't mind, a little bit of a background on what we're going to be presenting?
Do you want to?
No, I'd like you to.
Mike?
Or Michael.
I was gonna do
Whoever needs to do it.
I think, let's see, what am I doing? I'm supposed to say, I'm Mike Rugioni, I'm from, what do you say, honey?
Precinct.
1?
Good thing you brought it
I've
up.
only lived there 60-some odd years, I think I remember what precinct I'm in. But anyway, first of all, thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to make a little presentation to you this evening. It's somewhat embarrassing when I'm making a presentation about my community center in my name, which is a little different. But I was approached a while ago by Russ Sanford about an idea and a project for the middle school and the auditorium, the gymnasium, and the rink. And the idea, and you'll see soon what we as a group have come up with, is an idea for that facility. But the biggest thing at the beginning was, in order for this whole facility to look and work the way it does, would have to be to tear down the old rink, which is 40-some odd years old. I think our rink staff over the years has done an amazing job of keeping this facility up and running. And the rink has made money over the years. It's an unbelievable facility, and when it was approached to me to have my even name on it, it was a great honor for me. But when we talked about the community center, I thought the rink would become a community center, not only ice hockey rink, but a place where kids in this community could go and play in the summertime and use this year round. We did have one high school graduation a few years ago, but then because of the facility and the floor, the rink collapsed and you can no longer really do anything inside. So Russ and I talked about it. The first thing he wanted to do was to get my permission to at least agree or understand that this rink could be torn down. But the new rink, if we build this new rink, will not affect the old rink because the old rink will not come down until the new rink's built. I then called Hucky Larson and Judy Larson and called them about it and said, look, there's a possibility that there's this plan in place to totally revitalize that whole facility. And part of it would be to tear down the old rink and put up a new rink, but the Larry Larson name will still stay on the facility. And they were both absolutely ecstatic about it because, again, the rink's it's an old rink. So anyway, I talked with Russ. I saw some of the ideas of this and thought, what an unbelievable opportunity to tie in that whole parcel of land with a new rink and a community center. So as you'll see later on, the community center would be a facility where the kids in this town have a place to go. And I don't know if people read the transcript all the time, but there was a few months ago, they had a survey and they talked to a bunch of middle school kids. And they asked the kids, what do you want to see happen in this town? And it was almost every article said the same thing. We need a place to go. We don't have a place in this town. When I grew up in this town, we had the auditorium, we had the gym down there. We used to go there on Saturdays. We had a place to go, a place to play basketball, a place to work out, a place to hang. We don't have that. So when again, Russ approached me with this idea, and like I said, you'll see it, I thought, the rink is one thing, and it's nice to have a rink, but the community center is what we need in this town. We need a place for the kids in this town to go and do something and go somewhere. And, you know, we talk about a swimming pool, we talk about a gymnasium. Sean Driscoll will have a facility, an updated facility, where he can bring kids into, and it's a place for them to go. And it ties into, as you'll see, the plans for the center. What we want to do in the center is revitalize the center. I think you're going to be blown away by the ideas and the thoughts of what this facility can become and what that whole parcel of land can become. You know, in this town, we've talked about it for years. We knew we were going to build a new high school. And nobody ever came up with an idea for the middle school. Yeah, you thought IBM was going to move in, or General Motors, or G. It's not happening. We think the group of people that we have put together through Russ is a concept and an idea. And I think it's a home run. The more I look at it, the more I see it just mirrors what we want to do in the center and what we want to do for the town. A new rink is awesome, and we do need a new rink. I've actually gone outside, and Jill Dunbar is back here with me. We've talked to some people about maybe even bringing in a junior team to come and play here, which would mean eat up ice time, pay the rental hours in the morning when we don't really have those hours rented. And Jonathan Lounsbury, if anybody knows Jonathan, he's a Winthrop kid, runs a junior program in Waltham, and he said it's a no-brainer. A team would love to come here and play. New facility, a new locker room for our women, varsity locker room for the ladies, a new locker room for the men, and added locker rooms, which we desperately need down the facility for our youth programs and the skating programs and everything in the town. So, for me, it's nice to have your name on a facility, but I would really like to see the facility become something that everybody in this community, in this town, can be a part of. So with that, Joe and Lisa, I think you can kind of outline
Sure.
where we're at, what we've talked about.
Thanks, Mike, and appreciate all the work you've done and the leadership you provided for this, and I want to thank President Sanford as well. So after, just a little bit of history, so after Russ had talked to Mike Ruzioni, he approached myself and Lisa Alpagini in part to see if we could help pull this thing together, because one of the things we needed to understand was whether or not we could have this community center in rink complex fit within the outline of the master plan that the town had conducted. So over the last number of months, we have a few of us pulled together a little PowerPoint. We've done some preliminary drawings. Nothing that we're going to show you is cast in concrete. Okay, this is really about 7 or 8 people who have decided to try to take the initiative of the next step beyond the master plan. Let's see what's possible. We wouldn't be here tonight if we didn't think what we're showing you is possible to achieve. And the whole goal is really to see if the council sees if this makes sense. And we'll have a set of recommendations at the back end. But the most important thing is to go from sort of a self-appointed committee of a bunch of citizens to perhaps a formal committee that the council would appoint with a specific mandate to really reach out to all the stakeholders in the community, right? Because that's what needs to happen next. So, and Lisa,
just to, Lisa Alpagini, Precinct 6, also a member of the Economic Development Committee, Citizens Advisory Committee. One thing I wanted to say and add to the context that Mike and Joe stated so well is that I think we really see this as an opportunity to have lots of things that are emerging in town come together. The master plan, what do we do with that site? The work of the Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee, there are at least 3 or 4 of you here tonight. And one of the things, in addition to providing the amenities and providing a rink and community center that's, I think, worthy of the Ruzioni name, worthy of the town, in addition to doing that and creating amenities for everyone in town, it also unlocks the potential of that site for more economic development, more revenue that can be brought to the town through some other housing development. It moves things around a little bit by moving the rink. Our motto is never a day without a rink. By moving it, you know, there's always a rink available, but at the same time, it opens up a part of the site for some other kinds of development that can help from an economic development perspective. So it brings together the master plan, the EDCAC work, the incredible work being done with transportation and to solve the parking problem in the downtown. And there are all these things that are really coming together at the same time. So I think, you know, we see this as a win-win-win. And I just wanted to, you know, make that comment to tie this in with the work of the downtown business owners, the work of the EDCAC, the work of the Transportation Committee. So it really is to pull all of that stuff together.
Great. So I think Lisa and I and Mike are going to go through the PowerPoint, so we'll be interrupting each other on a regular basis. We haven't really prepared who's going to say what. So if you want to come up and join me, that would be great. So what we're going to go through today to the council is what are we trying to achieve? Let's remind ourselves of the challenges with the existing buildings, which is something that was documented during the master planning process. What's the specific initiative that we are proposing to the council? What's the scope? What's involved? What are the pieces of this project? A little bit about what it might look like. And again, this is a very preliminary sketch about what it might look like. Obviously, it needs a lot of public outreach and stakeholder input. How do we end up building it? You know, what is the sequence of events? Who might use it? Those are always big concerns. What's it going to cost? How do you pay for it? And then what are the next steps if folks and the council like the idea? So why don't we just go through that, please, Mike?
Excuse me, just everybody see from the council point of view?
Yeah, don't worry about me, don't worry about me. You guys
Thank you.
need to move on.
Just if you can.
I also have some hard
I'm
copies.
good at this.
Lisa, go ahead, it's your job.
Okay. Do you want to do objectives? Or? Go ahead.
Sure. So obviously, we didn't plan this out, and I want to emphasize that this is a sort of a group of volunteers, citizens have come together. It's not, we've not been appointed by anyone, we've just been meeting, and part of what we're going to describe, I do want to just also say, is for those who have come to and have been part of the Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee, this is what we affectionately refer to as Option 5, which is what we talked about putting together kind of beyond the master plan, taking that to another level. So the objectives are to provide Winthrop Youth. There's a huge focus on the need for activities for our youth in town. You'll see more about that here. Provide Winthrop Youth and all residents. You'll see as we look at the program components and elements how all residents could participate in these benefits. A state-of-the-art center, brand new. It's really old. We're all, we all deserve better than what we've got there now. In a new community center, so that's the first objective. Second, obviously replace an aging facility that is no longer adequate. We all know that. Third, eliminate the need to spend town funds on repairs. I mean, every year we're putting some money into the rink, and and it's a little bit of good money after bad, and we have to, at some point, you want to stem that. Fourth, expand programming to reach residents of all ages. So we have youth programming, we have yoga studios for older people. We'd like to have a pool there, and you'll see some of that in the plan. So really, how can we make this benefit more people? Next, use the remaining space on site. This is what I mentioned a moment ago, unlocking the potential for the rest of the site. Use the remaining space on site for economic development uses, like residential units. That's one of the things that the master plan focuses heavily on, and also, by the way, is a key to getting state dollars, certain kinds of state money, for infrastructure improvements. So use the remaining space for economic development uses and to reinvigorate, huge issue here, our downtown and support our central business district owners. There's a group of owners meeting, and we need to get them patrons. We need to get people shopping downtown more and using those stores, and so that's big part of focus as well. These are all kind of added benefits to the youth programming and what a rink in a community center would bring. And then key, we think, we know that there's been a kind of conversation in town about the need for public safety building. And so simultaneously with this, our thought, just a citizen group here, would be that the town should really be actively evaluating other sites for a new public safety building simultaneously with this. So there's a commitment kind of made to do two things. And that's how we frame the objectives for this.
Go to the next slide, please. So a little bit, without laboring on this too much, I think the town master plan did a good job of talking about how inadequate and challenging the current buildings are, whether it's the high school, the auditorium, or the gymnasium. We talked about the rink already. Each one of them presents significant challenges for reuse, non-ADA compliant, certain code compliance issues that would be very expensive, and just a general layout that prevents them from being efficiently reused. You can go to the next slide, please. It's a little unnerving, by the way, for me to have to look at that screen with the good reverend just below it. I may have missed one or two masses in recent history.
More than two, no.
But I'll try not to make eye contact with them. You put yourself there on purpose, I know. So here's the initiative. I think in order, we would, on the site of the current middle school and auditorium and skating rink, we would look at that as large. We would do phased demolition. So as Mike and Lisa said earlier, we would not knock down the skating rink until a new skating rink was open. So we would never have a moment in time when there wasn't a skating rink in this town. We think that's an important commitment. Everything we're doing is consistent with the town master plan, and the district master plan had a number of important objectives, including helping with the revitalization of the center and the center business districts, but also was consistent with state programs that are available to communities like Winthrop to help pay for infrastructure, namely demolition, site preparation, utility support work, all which could drive down the net costs of building new facilities and new housing. And again, as Lisa described, provide that much needed multi-use and multi-age facility. Next slide, please. Lisa, do you want to? Mike?
Well, no, I think that's what I talked about. Obviously, the new rink, more lockers.
A little more about skating.
More lockers, which would bring in possible outside tournaments, which means people are coming to the rink to play, and after they play, they're going to go downtown maybe and, I don't know, have a sandwich or whatever. So the new facility would be awesome for maybe, again, having tournaments in the town. Talked about an indoor swimming pool and a gymnasium. Obviously, the gymnasium and the indoor swimming pool, we've talked about this in the town for years. At least I've always heard about it. We should have a swimming pool, place for kids to go. And you know what? We build the right swimming pool. Maybe we have a swimming program in the town. Maybe the high school has a swim team. Maybe we have a diving team. Maybe, those are available possibilities. And a new gymnasium. We've all been in the old gym. I was in the old gym 60 years ago. So it's run its course. And I think Sean can run his program there for the kids in the community. Multi-person program, serving the residents of all ages. We'd like to maybe put a yoga studio in there. Maybe there's a racquetball court. I mean, these are things that we can talk about. I think the other thing is we talk about, and again, wearing a hat of my family, my daughter who's very involved with the CASA program. What a better place to have but a facility there or a room there where, because if all the kids are going there, we've got a room there and a facility there for these kids. If they need some help, they can go up to that gym, that office upstairs, or the room upstairs where it deals with CASA and it deals with the drug programs. Some of these kids, they kind of shy away, but if it's there for them, they're working out, they're going to the school, they're going to the gym, they got a place there where they can maybe meet with somebody and talk to people. And I think that's a huge, huge opportunity for us to have our kids in one location where they're having fun and playing, but as we all know, we have a lot of kids in this town that have a lot of health issues and a lot of drug issues. And I think it would be awesome to have one facility right there in the same building. And, building management oversight services, that's kind of what I was talking about with that.
Sure, so again, at the expense of repeating, so the ideas you'll see in the drawings and draft drawings and our recommendation to the council, should you like the initial ideas, would be to appoint a formal committee, one part of which would be to do formal programming with the community, to really do much more outreach with stakeholders and figure out exactly what should be in these buildings. We also want to make sure, we've tested a little bit to make sure there's adequate parking, to make sure there's safe vehicular circulation. A lot of youth going to be using it, to make sure that there are no blind spots in the facility, but all those details are important and need to be worked out. We want to activate Pauline Street and improve the center connectivity, so as you're coming into town, coming into that area, boy, you're focused on Woodside Avenue and some of the other streets that are coming into the center business district. So when people come in to come see a hockey game, go to a youth event at the pool, or wherever it may be, they're more likely to stop in for lunch or for dinner, to look for certain services in the center. Most importantly, we do recognize that at one end of the site there is a neighborhood, and we got to be respectful of that neighborhood and have a site plan that treats that with as great sensitivity. Do you want me to just, you want to walk through these, or?
Well, I can, want to do an overview, and we can.
Yeah, so you're gonna, let me just describe, you're gonna see a couple of drawings that look the same. It basically, the first level of the facility, the second level of the facility, and then you'll see the larger view.
Yeah, so this is in plan, and it's a floor plan, I can just point out where things are. And again, I do want to note and thank the Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee. I'm not here as a formal member of that committee, and nor have we been meeting about this at all as a group, but, you know, Michael Lizardo is here, Bob Carroll, Peggy, you know, Brenda, and Joe. Really spent a lot of time, and this is kind of starting to get to what we were thinking about in terms of using this site to its fullest potential. So the idea here is that the rink, which is now located kind of in the back corner, would be pulled up to the front, so you can obviously see the rink there. There would be that some housing, some townhouses that would be very residential in scales, let's say about 3 stories, that would kind of mimic what's across the street, so that there'd be a buffer there for that neighborhood from the rink. Next to that, adjacent to the rink, is this community center. What you can see in plan on the first floor there is a lap pool, swimming pool, and then beyond that, some offices and a couple different multi-purpose rooms. When we look at the next floor, you'll see some other uses there. One of the things that Joe mentioned, and we should emphasize, these are very, very, very preliminary. You know, things might move around. Maybe the pool turns and is facing the other way and is longer. Maybe the basketball court is on a different floor. So this is very, very preliminary. And then there would be some other housing that would kind of come along down the balance of Pauline Street and wrap the corner. And, you know, be able to, that housing would enable us to apply for certain kinds of state funding, for Mass Works funding in particular, for some of these, the demolition and some improvements. This is shown to have a little bit of retail space in pink there on the front of that, to kind of keep that corridor along Pauline Street pretty active. So that's really the fundamental elements of it. There's parking there. All of this would need to be studied. I think what we want to do is look for a 60, 90-day feasibility period, so we can look at this in much more detail. There's parking across the street, so we want to look at, you know, potential for additional parking as well. So that's the first floor plan. The second floor plan is...
Second floor plan is the same. I think a couple of things to point out. One of them Lisa already mentioned. In the master plan envisioned about a 4-level high housing development. This takes, and it was in the center of the site, this takes the housing development and brings it down to the Walden Street end of the site. And as those of you who know the site slopes down to Walden Street. So in terms of the visual impact of 4 stories, it's going to be much less at the Walden Street end of the site, because again, it's at the invert of what's happening before Pauline Street rises up again. The second thing to just look for from a dimensional perspective, you can see this dotted line up here. That's the footprint of the existing rink. So you can see that you can leave that rink in place until you build the actual new skating rink right here. So it does allow for that phasing of keeping the existing rink in place before until you replace it with a new rink, and then you knock it down, and that's what makes the housing possible.
Roof plan.
Roof plan. I guess go to the next one. So just to speed up a little bit and take on.
Michael's multitasking tonight. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. And here's a sense of what it might look like. Again, this is not final architecture or anything, but just to give you a sense of massing. As Lisa was describing, this is the condominium or apartments or whatever the town thinks it should be. Probably a little bit of retail on the first floor to liven up the street and the corner there. And then you're seeing the first building is the community center, the second building is the skating rink, and then some townhouse type units that face the houses across the street from it. Again, at about the same height that they see there. And actually, if you're a resident across the street from it, if you're going to be going from seeing the side of a pretty tall school to houses that sort of should mimic you in terms of the front porches and the architecture and the urban design of that. So let's go to the next slide. So how do we build it? Want me to go first? Okay, so first you demolish the school building. to give you enough room to be able to build a rink in the community center. Once you've built a new rink and community center, you come back and you demolish the skating rink. Once you've demolished the skating rink, then you can come back and do both the housing down at the Walden Street and then the townhouse apartments up at the upper end of the site. So it would be a sequence of about 3 events that would happen. We would, as we described, at the back end, once the rink is open, the community center is open, our belief is that's the time when the town would have maximized the value of the remainder of the site. And at that point, the town probably would want to consider issuing an RFP for a real estate developer to come in and do all the housing, probably as one large package. Again, we decided to utilize the slope of the site to put the higher mass buildings at the lower end of the site to minimize visual intrusion. Excellent. You guys want to talk about this?
Yeah,
Yep.
I just keep saying the same thing.
Same
I mean,
things?
To me, it's
really important.
it's a no-brainer. It serves everything that the town is looking for. A mirror image of the center, facilities for our kids, our young boys and girls in the community, as well as our seniors centers. I'm sure we can do something and work with them. And we bring in some townhouses or condominiums that will bring people into the community that will, obviously, if you're living there, you're going to walk to the center, you're going to shop, you're going to, have dinner. So I think it, excuse me, I think it ties into everything that we want downtown. And so it serves the purpose of the center. And more importantly, again, for me, it's something for our kids to come and a place to go and a place to hang out.
Here's a couple of slides that sort of begin to talk about the kind of stakeholder engagement that we all need to do. One of the nice things that we've had is that CASA has an advisory board, and CASA has gone out and done youth surveys. And as Mike said at the front end, and we've seen some of this documentation in the winter transcript when people ask a random set of kids what's missing in town. There is a big need among the youth for this kind of facility and for the youth programs that we need to run and do run in this town. Go to the next slide if you want. Our suggestion would be, if the council agrees to adopt this, is that not only should we further expand our outreach to those who service the youths, which is the hockey teams and the soccer leagues and baseball, because they really understand sort of, and PTAs, et cetera, the school department. But we should also reach out to some of the other folks. People who are over 65, as an example, need a place to go late at night when you get kicked out of the house or something else happens, right? But that's an example of the stakeholder engagement we think that needs to be done as a follow-up to this. So let's talk a little bit about what we think this is going to cost. Again, and this is based upon the preliminary program that we have here. Pretty expensive site demolition. These are big blocky buildings, going to cost a lot to take them down. There are likely some hazardous materials in there. There's going to be need for site remediation. We believe, based upon the history of the site, working with the town manager's office, that there's a little bit of sponginess to the site. One of the problems that the existing skating rink has found. So there's soil stabilization that needs to take place. All new utilities need to be brought into the site, and generally a site preparation package, because this is likely to be a site that's going to step down as you come down the hill and create sort of 3 platforms to move along the hill. That's about $5 million in our initial estimate. The rink, as it's currently programmed, we believe is going to cost about $5 million to build, pivoting off of a solid site prep package done in item number 1. And then the community building as well, we've got it in there for about $9 million. It could be, we're anticipating that the that the pool might get larger. We have a 25-yard lap pool. If the schools decided they wanted to have a high school swim team, the standard there would be 50. So we try to accommodate in our cost estimate that some program elements may grow, but the final cost really will be a function of what the council decides should be in those buildings.
And what amenities you want to put.
And what,
What kind of locker, what do we want in the rink? How many stands?
That's right.
How wide do we want the rink? How long do we want the rink? And then, like you said, the community building, how many office spaces do we want in there? How big the pool? How big is the gym going to be? What's off the gym? So there's a lot of, tweaking to some degree in the cost, but that's somewhat of a ballpark understanding. How good do we want, You want to spend more money, we'll have a better facility. That's just what we can kind of talk about.
And the question then is sort of how do you pay for it? As we mentioned up front, one of the great benefits of doing the master plan for the center that the town manager and his staff ran along with the CAC was to make sure that we did the reuse plan or the master plan consistent with state guidelines to be able to be competitive for state dollars that help with these kinds of redevelopment projects. So this initiative is completely consistent with that master plan and therefore eligible for those kinds of reimbursement of costs. So we think that entire expensive upfront demo package and site prep package that we discussed earlier of $5 million is absolutely eligible for reimbursement by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts through what's known as the MassWorks program. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. I think Lisa will address it. To put it in perspective, though, other communities have gotten well in excess of $10 million for these kinds of things. So asking for $5 million is not even at the upper range of what the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has given. So in our view, it's an achievable goal to reach for that. When we end up at the back end with the housing available for development, our initial sense is that land value is probably worth about $2 million. It's 5 years from now, 4 years from now, right? So the economy can continue to go up, and that number could get higher. The economy could go flat, that number could stay the same. It's possible you end up in a 2-year recession and you have to wait a couple of years before you move forward on it. But that's sort of our guess if you were to do it today, what you would get. We think that we can engage in private fundraising for this. We've targeted about $3 million for private fundraising. We generally have put in, this was something that Mike and Lisa talked about earlier, of putting good money after bad, right? So right now, as an example, there's I think about $500,000 set aside for new lockers for the skating rink. 600,000. One might think about if this were something that everybody wanted to do, is to hold on to that 600,000 and apply it to here. There obviously, if you decided to try to keep that gym alive, you'd have to put money to keep the gym alive. And generally thinking about a reserve over 5 years, that might add up to about $3 million. Again, that would be really a question for the finance subcommittee of the council. Again, Commonwealth of Massachusetts for new construction of $3 million. Maybe our reach when we apply is not for $5 million, but for $8 million. We ask them to participate in the new construction and get to know that up front. Then there are our favorite targets, right? MWRA and Massport, who have been generous contributors to initiatives in the past, like the field, Miller Field today. In a couple of years, maybe we can increase their appetite.
We've even talked about, and this is just Dale and I talking, because the rink is going to be, the roof of the rink will not be visible by anybody in the community. Maybe you go to Massport, maybe you go to JetBlue, maybe you go to Delta Airlines, and they put they give you X amount of dollars a year to put, because the only way you're going to see the top of that roof is from the airplane. So again, that's us thinking, well, this could be somewhat of a fundraiser or a financial gain that we never even thought about or talked about. So those are things that we discussed.
That's right.
Some ways to bring in some revenue year in and year out, just by having a logo on top of the roof, which, like I said, people in the town will not see. It's not going to be an eyesore.
Yeah, and we're important to note that we, in all these numbers, add up to $2 million more than we think is what's going to cost. So there is some room for either the cost getting bigger because people want more in the program, or there's some room for a contingency just to sort of have it in case we fall short. Let's imagine we ask the state for $8 million, they only give us $7 million, well, then we use $1 million of that contingency that's in there. Lisa?
Yeah, I think Joe covered it all really. The MassWorks money that he spoke of, it's money that in the office I work in, we've used on a number of different projects. We've gotten some of those resources, so we're familiar with how we might be able to apply and have them eligible for, have Winthrop become eligible for those. So I think that's a pretty good bet. We talked a little bit about fundraising and kind of saving the town money that we are spending now. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I do think it's important to emphasize that the costs are very preliminary. This is, again, part of what we're looking toward here is a good 90-day period where some real serious feasibility analysis could take place to either validate some of these assumptions or to tweak them and adjust them. So.
Yeah, I think the important things are in the short term, what would the council need to contemplate? The first is, if you think this is an idea that has some merit, would be to appoint over the next couple of board meetings a formal committee, 7 to 9 people with different kinds of expertise, right? So you clearly need folks who can reach out to the stakeholders and advance the design and programming and see what people want to have in these facilities. You need folks who are good in design and construction, so we can then turn that into a revision of these plans, do some cost estimation. There needs to be a committee that is set aside to think about all of the funding sources and to think about the fundraising and have a fundraising plan. What do we hit first? Who do we go to second, et cetera, in the sequence of events. So setting up that committee would be critical point number 1. I think critical point number 2 is that almost no matter what you are thinking about doing in that site, based upon the master plan really does call for the demolition of most of the buildings. There is the next MassWorks application deadline is August 1st. We would implore the council to apply for the demolition money in this next round in August 1st, because you apply in August 1st, hopefully you're here by the end of the year. Hopefully that money then is available to provide to a demolition contractor for 2018. This is really a 2-year demolition site prep program, so 2018, 2019. At the end of 2019, you have a clean, clear site. In 2020, you come back with the beginning of the construction for all of the new facilities and start that sequence. So, and that's what we sort of laid out here in this schedule. So I think we'll stop talking.
It magically all culminates with the 40-year gold medal celebration.
That was my idea.
2020.
It's amazing. 40 years have gone by, right? It just feels
It's a
like
perfect time for a new rink.
Yeah, it was like it was 5 years ago. But honestly, that's also a hook for us on the fundraising. If you can imagine ESPN and the Olympic committees and DraftKings and all that stuff to sort of have an event around really what we take it for granted in Winthrop, right? I think when I travel a lot, Lisa travels a lot, and Mike walks around town here and he's Mike Ruzioni, but people stop whenever they see him in the airport or in
Ready
New
the
York.
day my
and all that
grandkids figure out a
stuff.
way. I have to watch that movie Miracle.
Yeah. But anyway, so
Yeah, if I can just touch again.
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning, this is not about me and my name. It's about an opportunity that I think our town has to do something with that piece of property that nobody has come forward yet. And we knew, I don't know how many years ago, we were building a new high school, and there's nobody. Rick Pitino said that Larry Bird's not walking in that door. Right now, there's nobody coming forward with any idea or clue about what they want to do with that property. And I think this and what Russ, when he put a bunch of us together just to kind of think about it and brainstorm. I've talked to youth hockey about it, and I have not shown it to one person that hasn't looked at me and said, well, that's a no-brainer. So until somebody comes up with a better idea, and they better do it quickly, that site's just going to sit there, and it's going to rot, and it's just going to be an eyesore, especially when we're trying to do what we want to do in the center. for our businesses in the center. So I was excited about when Russ contacted me, and like I said, it's sometimes hard to be a part of an event that's incorporating your own name, but I figure while I'm alive, let's try to get it done. So we appreciate all of you, at least especially the council, for listening to what we have to say. I think we're all very curious what your reactions are, what your comments might be. Maybe they're not tonight because I know there are other things going on, but clearly I hope you kind of look at this with some open eyes and think that it's not a bad deal, not a bad facility.
If I may, Joe Ayala had prompted me, a while back, and I promised him I would get hold of Mike Ruzioni, and I didn't do it. Then he was on my back for a little bit more. So we finally made the contact. 20 years ago, and maybe prior to that, other people we tried to open youth center down where the old Jewish community center was on Shirley Street. So this has been evolving for lots and lots of time. But now we finally have some real structure to it and some great ideas. And 40 years, 2020, man, nothing would be better than to have the gold medal 40th anniversary here in Winthrop. Nothing would be better. It would put us on the map. So these are great ideas. There's been a lot of work done by these folks. I'd like to welcome the council to ask some questions or make some comments. At some point in the next meeting or two, we will appoint a town committee through the council to work with the town manager's office, and who's actually saw this a little while ago and got excited about it. So we're going to try to put everything together and make some additional great things happen for it. There's a lot of great things that have taken place already. We're just going to continue the work. So I'm going to invite the council to speak. Yeah,
Joe approached me as well about 6 months ago, I think, and I thought it was a great idea. I approached the town manager with the idea, and it's been lingering, and thank God now it's in front of the council for a vote, and we can get something going.
Mr. President.
Yep, Councilman
And I say the same thing. I mean, we've had ideas and studies over the years for everything, and spent 2, 3, 4 years looking at things and never even materialized anything. But knowing Mike and knowing Joe, I really don't know Lucy yet, but I'm sure we're going to become very familiar. They don't put their time into something that's not going to be workable, doable. I know their expertise, I know especially Joe's, cost estimates and time frames. These are things that usually are years down the road, but committee takes, a year and a half to get to. The expertise of this committee, and I'm assuming a few of these folks over here, who I know they've been involved in many projects. Has been nice to Dick and Dale. I was trying to keep you out of it, Dick. When you're involved in something with this group, it's something that really usually comes together and it's pretty streamlined. Before you got here, you were confident with what you were saying.
Well, we talked.
We
talked to Sean Driscoll because this is where Sean's program is going to run. I've talked to my daughter Leanne with the CASA program, and Dawn Amstead.
Right.
We talked to a couple of middle school kids. Michael Norris's daughter. I talked to her about, if this thing comes together, we want people like that on the committee. We want middle school kids. What do you want to see in that facility? So we've kind of researched it, I think, from the outside, just getting opinions of different people in the community. And like I said, everybody, the response has been, wow, that's pretty special. And until someone else comes up with an idea, how much longer you want to wait? I don't know. That's up to obviously the council, but it's just going to sit there.
Let's get moving. Rest of the council, anybody else in the council? Councilman Brown?
I'd just like to recognize the effort that you people put in, the time, and just applaud your community, your sense of community service. Thank you very much for what you do for us.
Anyone else? Shelley?
Thank you for this presentation. This was great. I'm really excited about this idea. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the town, both to provide more amenities for residents in terms of a new skating facility, new community center, and also to bring more people to town to eat in our restaurants, shop in the shops, and bring more economic development to the community.
Anyone else? All set. And I too want to thank you for all your hard work. I know, lots of hours went into getting this presentation, getting the numbers together. And I thank you all, and again, Dick Lawton, Dale Dunbar, thank you for your, there's a few other folks we're not naming. But the expertise between Joe and Lisa Abigani is unbelievable. I mean, this is what they do, directly or indirectly. And, to have those resources here in town to present something like this and give us an idea that can happen is very exciting. I thank you all. And Michael Rosioni, needless to say, thank you.
Council President, can I also just acknowledge and thank again the people in the audience, because
Yeah.
there's so many people between,
Yeah.
The EDCAC members and, folks from the Central Business District who've been coming to all the meetings that I've had before in our other group. So it's really, I think, what's exciting about this is it's kind of ground up. I mean,
Yeah.
really it's coming from
Ground
a lot
up,
of
yeah,
community
grassroots.
interest and a lot of different fronts right now. So I think
Yeah.
that deserves credit too.
So, well, thank you all. Appreciate it. And at some point in time going forward, we'll have some public visioning sessions, but we'd really like to put the committee together at some point in time. In fact, I'd accept, if it's the appropriate time, a motion to put a committee together, Community Center Facilities Committee.
I make a motion.
You do it under new business? Yeah, okay, we'll do it under new business. Okay, great. All right, thank you all. Next on the agenda is continued public hearings. I think those are all been done in our last meeting. Am I correct, Council Vice President?
I think we need
Town
to,
Manager?
I think they were all left open. I think, do we have to, were they closed?
We're not closed.
None of them are closed. So they have to be reopened and,
Okay. Okay. So we're going to reopen public hearings, transfer $75,000 from General Stabilization Fund, Ferry Fund. Hearing is open. Any comments? Public hearing, anybody from the outside? If not,
Mr. President?
yes.
The Finance Committee did meet on this and did vote to move it forward with a positive recommendation.
Okay, which will be coming up, yeah, under old business, thank you. Next item on, under public hearings, a transfer of $26,750 from General Stabilization / Mobile Restroom Trailer. Public hearing is open. Any comments?
Mr. President? This
Council
is,
Delvecchio.
the Council Finance Committee met on this tonight, and we're still holding this in committee, a recommendation on it.
Okay, so that remains in committee?
Yes.
Anything else? If not, hearing has been closed. Next item is a transfer of $41,256,000 from Capital Stabilization Fund, fund a pickup truck for school custodial services. Hearing is open. Any comments from the council? Any public comments?
Mr. President?
Council Delvecchio?
Council met on this tonight and moved it forward with a 2-to-1 positive recommendation.
Okay. So that too will come up under old business. Okay, thank you. Our public hearings are closed. Next on the agenda is public comment. We have some public comment. Mike Lacerdo in the back.
Sure. Mike Lacerdo, Precinct 6. I just wanted to comment on that presentation that we were just given about what can be done at the middle school site as an EDCAC member. I think when we started that process, we immediately thought that the scope was too small and that we could do something big. And that's exactly what we're talking about, is something big, which really incorporates all the feedback that we heard from multiple stakeholders across the board. And I just want to say I'm really happy to see that people have taken the initiative to take that ball and run with it. And I think it was a great one.
Great work from the EDAC also, and combining the efforts with this committee or of folks who just came out to work to get this idea up. Anyone else? Public comments? Steve Keller?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Keller, Public Works Director. I just want to just quickly remind the council that we're at a critical point in the center revitalization design. We need to move that forward. After this presentation, which was also an impressive presentation, if there is an appetite for that type of development, just looking at it, just from what they're proposing, I see about another $1 million to $1.5 million worth of infrastructure improvements that would be needed. And that's all gonna tie into the work that we're doing down in that center, which is, the footprint is from CVS in. So if that's something that we're gonna consider in short term, then we need to really talk about getting the engineering for that, for the infrastructure improvements that are gonna be needed on Walden Street. There's no water main on Walden Street right now in that area. There's storm drain and sewer that runs underneath the footprint of that middle school in rink. So we need to reroute a lot of utilities and get those utilities in place if that's gonna happen. It will also tie into the center project. So we gotta talk about additional engineering if that's something that we're gonna.
If that's something moving forward.
Well, yeah, consistent with that is that we proposed a plan for the council to consider, and you have had that for some time. We have to encourage quick deliberation over that plan, and also, we have been in receipt of solicitations from landscape architects, and we do have a budget number that we'll be proposing a funding request of the council to support a land use architect to come in and assist with providing recommendations to the council relative to that plan. So that's over the next few weeks. You'll see some requests from us relative to that as well.
And at that time zone, that length of time will work?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to.
ASAP, yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to it, early on that.
There's urgency.
It's an ASAP situation.
Okay. Yeah, I got it, okay.
So just to ask during public comment a question, because I know Steve's time is limited here tonight, so I just want to ask a question on this subject that, so this is kind of tying in with the whole National Grid work that's being done now, which is the gas portion of this project, which probably has another, until the end of August to be completed before National Grid is gone. And then there's going to be this is why it's so critical, there's going to be a time lapse before we can move forward to the next part of the project. So this includes discussions about, are we closing Hagman Road or are we not closing Hagman Road? What are we doing with French Square? How much are we making it bigger or smaller? What are we doing? So there's a lot that has to be discussed because we can't even put this out for a bid, my understanding, until we know what we're bidding on. So it's extremely time sensitive, and I know Stephen's been saying this since the master plan was developed, I think a couple months back. So it is time sensitive because we can't get to the next part of that project and have a plan as to how we're going to do it, time frame of doing it, when it's going to be done, who it's going to be done by, until the council acts on this.
Yeah. Now, the next step would be the landscape architect, or not?
Yes, I mean, we had that request in front of us from you.
Right.
And we have solicited professionals to respond to an RFP. We have 3 quotes. We will.
5 quotes.
We've okay, I'm correct.
Okay.
5 quotes. So we will sit down with the Economic Development Subcommittee of the council, go through those RFPs, hopefully interview the top candidates.
It's a quote process, so we're bound to take by 30 feet, we're bound to take the
Okay,
lowest quote.
so the lowest quote.
All the firms that we solicit quotes from were firms that were recommended to us by the CAC. We had been given a list of several, 7 or 9. We had asked all of them for quotes. 5 of them responded, and there's 1 quote that's lower than the others.
But don't we still need to, it's just a question, well, I'll ask Steve to.
We absolutely need a landscape architect. I'm not debating that fact. What we need to do as a council in the community is agree on what the green space is going to be. We don't really need somebody to come in and tell us where to put green space. We need buy-in from the community that says, okay, we want Hagman Road closed. We want to expand French Square. Once we get those things agreed upon, which has to happen fairly quickly, then we can bring in a landscape architect and tell us how to make those areas pretty, and then how to develop those areas. Don't really need an architect to come in and propose 100 different scenarios. We need, as a community, to agree on what we want to close, what we want to keep open, what needs to be green space and what. But again, talking back to this whole project over on Pauline Street now, there's now a mesh of engineering that has to happen. We're talking from the center project in with this center revitalization project. We're not talking Pauline Street and Walden Street, which that project needs. And if it's going to happen, and I don't know how,
Well, I think we're in the beginning stages of that also.
So we might want to talk about some preliminary engineering to make sure that things
be able to tie in, So I think the next thing would be to send it to Economic Development, maybe have a public hearing and to discuss what's going to happen in the center.
Yes.
And if Steve, if you could be part of that in the town manager's office, that'd be great. I'm also, as you know, as council president, I don't chair any committees anymore. I kind of hang out with all you guys up here. So I'm going to ask Heather if she'd be the chair of the Economic Development Committee. She's been on it, very consistent. Jim Lettieri is also on it. And we'll be looking for another counselor. If anybody's interested in being on that committee, please let me know after the meeting. We'll talk about that going forward. But the time being, you know, that important, wanted to see if we can get this going right away for you. Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Yeah, Council Boyage.
Do we know any more about when that mass grant for the works was going to come about? I know that we had submitted and we were waiting to hear. And then the other thing, I guess, was I think we should entertain bonding what we need so that we can get this done ASAP with the engineering and things. That's just something we can discuss as well.
Can we get an update on
that
for us?
The two are tricky. Once we spend town dollars, we really cut ourselves off of the state funds. If we want to do that, that's a decision that needs to be made. But as we've said before, we've been given a indication that we're very, very highly likely candidates for state funding. Now, the state is still reconciling its budget. I think if Senator Boncory were here tonight, he'd reiterate that.
I think that's where he is. He's working.
We're all sort of waiting, and a lot of folks across the Commonwealth are waiting, to get that matter resolved such that other funding issues then can then follow through after that. And so I think, unfortunately, it's a bit of a timing question for us right now. But I think I'm very hopeful and optimistic that the state budget will get resolved in the next few weeks, and then we will then know much more and have a more firm report to give the council on that funding.
Council Boyage?
Oh, just to follow up with Steve, what would the deadline be? Like when is kind of the last second that we can that we need to proceed and get secure funding for the engineering part of this?
So the engineering for the Senate area is in place, it's funded.
Yep.
But we're at a standstill until we determine
Right.
that final layout.
Right.
So are we putting utilities in Hagley Road, or are we not putting utilities there? So I gotta complete that engineering.
Right.
But again, it's the footprint of the center it's for a full build out of the center. This other project, I love, I like the sounds of it, I love the development, I love the concept, but there's a lot of engineering now that has to kind of come together if we're gonna start, feeding 100 units where there's no water main and things of that nature,
Yeah, so noted. Okay, good. Anyone else on the council? Yeah. In fact, we're still in public comment. Yes. Anything else from public?
Just informational, Manager McKenna about a month ago brought in front of the council for your approval the night work of the MWRA for the North Metropolitan Pipeline going down to Deer Island. That work is commencing tonight on Morton Street. There's 10 workers, 5 members of a rescue team, 5 members will be in the soil line, and 2 MWRA project managers. We're going to be touching base with them daily where they are. They start at 6 p.m. They will be done before 6 a.m. We will know where they are all the time. This is going to bring them across the golf course on the Veterans Road. Weather permitting, they'll be done in approximately 2 weeks. So if you do get any complaints, I have all the contact numbers both on the MWRA side and the Ted Barry company out of Maine that's doing it. The other thing is, it's that time again. We're selling T-shirts to raise money for a public safety facility.
You have the wrong T-shirt.
Indeed, the wrong one. But to make a long story short, we got 500 in 2 weeks ago. We've sold half of them. Market, the Winthrop Marketplace, they're being sold at the Winthrop Yacht Club if you happen to be a member. And at the corner of Putnam and Jefferson at the Pro Shop, they're selling them. So if they're going fast, grab them, put them on eBay, you make a couple of bucks. But again, if you want people to come to Winthrop, you have to have great fireworks.
Absolutely.
We're going to have them this year.
As usual.
On the 4th.
As always. On the 4th, yes. Make sure we know that. Mr. Hines?
Steve Hines, Precinct 6. I think I'm going to talk, without being asked to, on behalf of the Center Business District owners that we've been talking with. The middle school project, it all sounds great. I'm really excited that that's getting off the ground. It's much needed. I think all of us on our side, we're still really, really anxious about the grant for the sewers, especially on Somerset. And with other, and I guess DPW might be able to answer too, if we start talking about the middle school site, is that in any way going to delay what we have going on Somerset right now? It's my understanding that building's going to be coming down fairly quickly. And in order to get something back up there, my understanding is that the sewers need to be taken care of. And so I just want to make sure that that doesn't get delayed, or at least I can report back to people that that's not going to get delayed if we start talking about other projects down there as well. So I guess if you can, will it, I mean...
answer that question. It all depends on how quickly we can get answers as to how quickly we can start working on it.
Okay.
So, once we can decide on final design, we can finish engineering work and put this thing out to bid. As far as your building project, the infrastructure in place will sustain it.
Yeah.
At this point, it's going to add capacity to it. It's going to put it a lot closer to being maxed out in that area that I feel comfortable of.
Yeah.
But it will sustain it. The work down there, I believe the community is committed to the center project at this point. That work will occur.
I guess the concern is...
Just not back and forth.
Yeah, no,
just
I guess...
make your comment.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that I don't want, I mean, I wouldn't want to do Somerset now and then have to tear it back up to get the middle school site prepped. So
I think,
don't know
Mr.
if
Hines,
it's
none of the
time.
council wants that to happen. I think
Okay,
we've got
I know.
plans on what we're going to do. We're going to follow through with the grant going forward. If the council wants to take up an appropriation or a bonding consideration going forward, that's up to the council to bring it up. But at this point in time, I'm satisfied with waiting for the money from the state to come through. I think it's we've got some good indication that that's going to happen. If we think we need to bond going forward, then I recommend anyone on the council to bring that forward. If not, we'll stay with the plan now. Even if they start a construction on Somerset tomorrow, it's going to be 6-9 months, a year. I think we'll have an answer within 60 days max. Any other comments from the public, please? If not, we'll close public comment. Correspondence. Let me see what I have. I do have some. Let me just see if I can find it. Council Kelly just sent me something.
Yes.
I did get some correspondence. I got an email here, a letter from, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not it. Let me just regroup here a second. If I can find it. I did get some correspondence, one being a letter from Mr. Falbo regarding Massport's work on 4R22L. Indicating some concerns for that project. He's part of the Airport's Hazard Committee, and I'll follow up with him regarding that project. But I also got something from a Kelly Smith who lives on Strand Way regarding some considerations for private ways and some safety concerns. Chief, if you can address those, that'd be great, if you don't mind.
We got the letter.
You got the letter?
We
Okay.
discussed it earlier in the
Okay,
day.
so that has been addressed to both the police and the fire department. Yeah?
On that note, not
I think that came
to
from the other
interrupt. Yes, I sent that over to you.
That came, okay, from Councilor.
I would just like to ask the town manager to follow up with that on the next meeting, please, because I believe it is in the ordinance.
In regards to, the problem is, as Chief Delehanty explained today, that their powers on the private ways are limited unless they are made or declared fire land. So it's been an ongoing problem. This has been going on for a while now, so as you well know.
Town manager will bring back with respect to the ordinance.
And I also got anything else, Council?
Thank you very much.
I also got a note here from Steve Paolini, who's on 14 Adams Street. He's concerned with the one-ways and some issues with parking and not having a heads up on it or some advance notice. I think the chief may have this. If not, I'll refer it to you, and we can address those issues, and maybe DPW, just as far as signage and letting the folks know in the neighborhood that they shouldn't be parking on the street at a particular time. And I think that's all I have unless anyone has anything
I
else.
do. I
Yeah,
have
Council
one.
Taylor, I think you may
Yes,
have.
I received an email today, and it was asked to read it in public during our correspondence, and it's from Kelly Poleckia. I hope I'm saying her name right. She said, and she sent it to the whole council. She said, I hope you are doing well. I'm a homeowner in Winthrop and reside at 4 Willis Ave. I would like to voice my strong support of the peer recovery specialists in Winthrop. Please, I urge you to fund these positions to be full-time paid positions with benefits. I understand you are looking into liability costs, but the pros significantly outweigh the cost in my opinion. If you are looking for data on the value of peer specialists, please reach out to any of the many agencies in the Metro Boston area doing it. The program is unique and cutting edge, and we should be proud to say we are doing this here. Please present this email at tonight's council meeting as a public comment, as I have a prior commitment and cannot make it. Sincerely, Katie Poleckia.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. And as we may or may not know, I think the town manager's office is working, and we received some information from the health department regarding going forward with that program. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I can jump in on these subjects since it's been raised.
That's okay.
I've been doing a lot of work on this subject over the past few days. And tomorrow morning, I will be having my first meeting on it with staff to discuss some issues that need to be worked out. But the fact is, we have been talking with regional partners about what they do versus what we do, and trying to compare and contrast those values. And there's a lot more synergy than I think people realize. There's a lot more opportunity as well, both in terms of what these other partners might bring to Winthrop, if asked and if brought into the picture. So I think at the end of the day, we could actually propose something even more advanced than where we stand today. And the answer may not be necessarily just sort of making people in the town employees, but really looking at the services themselves and seeing how we can really project over the next 6-9 months, a couple of years, where things are going to be, where's the state of the art going to be in this arena, and understand where it gets clearer about the standard of care, the responsibilities of this type of service, as well as where does this town have risk, and to understand that risk a lot better. We're talking with our insurance carriers, and there's some uncertainty from them. We're talking with our attorneys as well, and there's some uncertainty as well. So I think it's important for us to do this, take the time to do the due diligence that we're doing over these weeks, and to invite in people like CAPIC and North Suffolk Mental Health and East Boston Neighborhood Health and Mass General as well, and solicit their input and get from them what it is they're proposing, how Winthrop can be, add that value to what we do. And maybe the solution then comes out of those discussions, so that we understand, are we all alone in the Alamo and in it on our own, or are we not? And if we're not on our own, how can we deploy these resources more effectively than just simply having to take this on our own, assuming all the risk and all the costs associated with it. And so this is a very important analysis that has to be done. And we're going to be very respectful of existing folks, what their interests are, the level of effort that the town has made thus far. Our peer recovery coaches have always been vendors. They've always been third party. They've never been town employees. In fact, they were grant supported. The challenge we always face when we go out and get grants is what comes after the grant. When the grant goes away, are we now married to a bigger obligation? And what comes with that? And we have to always ask ourselves if that's what we've expected to happen here. There's concern that the monies that were promised perhaps on this subject matter coming out of Beacon Hill really are getting funneled through agencies that already exist. that already have depth, vertical depth and horizontal depth and resources. And so the likelihood of a town being able to compete effectively for those dollars is a question. So I've asked, and I've informed a few of you who've asked me about, what my inquiries have been, and you've been very helpful with me in talking about this. It's a very serious matter. We take our project very, very seriously because it's been successful. As it stands today, which is a grant-funded project with third-party vendors providing the support. Why should that change? We need to know that much more, and then plan for that change. And I need to recommend to you something that doesn't put the town at risk, or at least mitigates or minimizes that risk, and secures funding for it in the total of what that will take over the next year. And so we're doing that work over the next few weeks. And tomorrow we're having a very good, hopefully a very productive meeting about many of these issues, and we'll have more to report.
Could you speak a little more to the time frame as to when you think you'll have sort of a final conclusion about how to move forward, as well as the steps that need to happen? I think time is of the essence here.
It is. I have to say, I personally have learned a lot over the past few days. So I don't want to make promises and not meet that schedule, but I'm hopeful that by the next council meeting, I hope to have a report that's much more specific and with a recommendation.
And what do you think the steps are in the process? I mean, what needs to happen over the course of the next couple of weeks?
We need to get definitive answers from our carriers if what we propose is something that is, what's the cost of that? Okay, we need to know that. We need to understand the liability questions much more effectively than we understand. I was on the phone with our council today about it, and we're exploring that. We need to know what the other agencies that are in our region who are very willing to partner with us. I've spoken with all of them, and there's an eager interest in partnering with us. What can they bring to advance, the activities that we're doing? And can they incorporate them? Can they even continue to act as that third party? Is what they do in the long run more likely to result in funding of this going forward, hopefully not at the great expense to the community? Some of those issues need to be answered, and I hope that I can get a better answer to you over the next couple of weeks.
The other piece I would bring up is, if we are to keep the peer recovery coaches in-house, we need to get, I think, a legal opinion on compliance with state and federal, probably mostly state regulations.
Right.
And I don't know how in-depth that's been looked at.
Those are the questions I'm asking. Licensure.
I think the licensure and compliance piece is probably be our biggest source of liability.
Yep. And here's the issue. It's not that we generally government activities generally have caps on public liability. Mass Torts Claims Act caps the municipality at $200,000 of exposure, if you will, in negligence matters. But it's the fact that we're always perceived as the deep pocket in whatever happens. That it's the repeat of that kind of then does raise the specter of risk to the town, and that's the question that the insurance carrier needs to evaluate. What's the propensity of problems in this kind of a setting, and that's for the insurer to answer, not for me.
We're going to talk about scheduling our next meeting. We may not have a meeting in July, but if we in fact do not, maybe the meeting following our next scheduled meeting, if we can have some updates, it would be helpful.
Well, Council President, I'm going to call for a public health and safety meeting coming
Okay,
up.
there we go.
So
Yeah.
maybe perhaps we can coordinate. If you have any information for us at that point, I'll give it the 2 weeks ban. Okay.
Council Bias?
Have the agencies that you're talking to, have they been able to provide any details on what their insurance has been like and what they're required? And I mean, I would imagine they have a similar type exposure with the I know they're not a municipality, but, you know, I don't know if that's helpful at all.
Well, they've been asked to make a pitch to me and by me, through me to you about what they do and how they do it. And, you know, understanding what a cost might be, understanding what services would come with that cost. And then definitely, you know, it goes, you know, it's fairly obvious that they need to carry very much heavy limits of
Yeah, I guess I
insurance.
wonder what I'd love to hear what their costs are for insurance purposes and stuff like that.
They certainly, you know, I think that they'd be willing to tell us how they do that.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? If not, yeah, we're in correspondence. Anything else? No. Okay, committee reports. We start off with finance committee.
Okay, Mr. President, the Finance Committee met earlier tonight, and we had President, all committee members were present, myself and Councilor Boyage and Lettieri. Also present were Councilor Engman, Joe Domowitz, and Mike Perez, and Council President. First item on the agenda is $75,000 for the from the General Stabilization Fund for the ferry to finish out fiscal 17. There was discussion related to the $17,000, $75,000 is coming in from the town of Quincy, but as ferry operations are boating season, not fiscal year oriented, this money will help balance the books to make it a clean transition for that money when it comes in, which should be, once that comes in, it'll go back, hopefully go back into the stabilization fund. Require a second vote. That was passed unanimously to the council. There was a second item of transfer of $41,256 from capital stabilization for the school pickup truck. There's been a lengthy discussion on this item, whether it was bought under the thought that it was going to be paid under bond financing with the high school, but under advice of Department of Revenue, they really don't want, the auditors really don't want to see that the money come from that bond issue. So we'd like to take the money from capital stabilization. That was passed with a 2-to-1, 2 yes, 1 opposed to recommend to the council. We had an item, the mobile restrooms, a lot of discussion, and we're still going to hold that in committee. There were some items on it that, such as the hookups, and that we need to get some more data on. If this is how we really want to pursue it, or if we want to do something a little more permanent down there, if we're going to spend some money. $50,000 gazebo repair. Steve Cal mentioned earlier during the public hearing. Also includes guardrail, some guardrail work around the park. That was moved forward unanimously, as well as the $7,552.19 of a child safety grant. It's a housekeeping issue. The grant that the money's currently in is called the Child Safety Grant Fiscal 15. The new grant was, the new line, which is a multi-year grant, is FY16, so we just have to change an account number, but that does require a vote. And that's the committee report.
Thank you, Councilor Del Vento. Rules and ordinance?
The Rules and Ordinance Committee met last evening in the council chambers. Present were myself and Councilor Del Vento. There was only one agenda item, which was the Town of Winthrop Public Access Guideline. There was some lengthy discussion, and Councilor Del Vento made a motion to approve it as written, and I seconded it. The vote was unanimous, so that's the recommendation coming from the committee.
Thank you, Council. DPW Committee?
The DPW Committee met last evening in the council chambers. Present were myself, Councilor Del Vento, and Councilor Boyajian. The meeting was called to order at 7 p.m. On the agenda was the petition for the Verizon pole at 130 Shirley Street at the intersection of Veterans Road. There was discussion about the need for an upgraded service to that building, and Councilor Del Vento made the motion, Councilor Boyajin seconded, and the vote was unanimous to approve the petition. The meeting was adjourned at 7:15.
Thank you, Council. Next is joint committee meeting with ESAC, TSAC Transportation. Council Raymond?
Sure. The EDCAC, TSAC Transportation Committee, and Economic Development Subcommittee held a joint meeting last week on Monday to discuss the overnight parking in the CBD for CBD residents. There was a recognition by everyone at the table that this is a complicated issue and there are a lot of competing interests. And the recommendation at the joint meeting last week was to take a step back from the recent proposal that we had for the development, since that is not going forward at this time, and take a broader look at an overnight parking solution that accommodates the needs of, first of all, the residents in the CBD, the existing residents, existing businesses, as well as something that could accommodate new development. So we discussed putting together a special committee just to look at overnight parking in the CBD, which would potentially be composed of the chairs of the committees that were in attendance, EDCAC, TSAC Transportation, and the Economic Development Subcommittee. I also received email correspondence from Bob Carroll today, who sits on both the Planning Board and the EDCAC, and his recommendation was to hand the overnight parking issue back to the Planning Board, since the Planning Board has a lot of experience with the parking limitations in the Center Business District as it is, and would be in the position to be evaluating proposals as they move forward. I do think there's a lot of benefit to having individuals from TSAC, Transportation, and all the various committees together at one table, and so I would suggest probably a new committee and include the Planning Board as well.
Yeah.
That was the gist of the discussion.
I agree with that. We'll be putting that committee together in the very near future. Town Manager's report?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I just want to say how proud I was on Saturday with regard to the Sale Boston event and the way the town looked and presented itself. I don't think we had as many folks visit as I hoped, but those who did, I think, found a community welcoming and safe, and with a lot of activities going on and ease of flow throughout the town. The bus service was terrific. The access out to Deer Island was well coordinated. I think, as many of you have already acknowledged, we really have quite a great partnership with the MWRA and Massport and other agencies that all in the state police, and all that have participated in these kind of events. And I was proud of our role and what we did to make that event a very successful event. I was also proud of the ferry staff and the activities of the ferry that weekend. They showcased the ferry very well, and I think we may have won a few hearts and minds over that vessel and how nice it is, and how it can serve in a multitude of ways the community. So to those folks who service that vessel and the harbor master crew, I'm very proud of what they did. So all in all, I think it was an excellent representation of the town that day.
Yeah. And I have to agree, Council Keller and I happen to be on the same excursion with our families, and there was nothing but positives from everyone, folks we knew and folks we didn't know. So I think it was a great way to showcase the ferry. Council Keller?
Yeah, we had a wonderful time. The weather was great, and the staff was friendly and knowledgeable and polite. It was really great. Everyone on board, I think everybody on board had a great time, and there was room to move around, and it just was a great experience, and really nice for Father's Day, for
Absolutely.
A group to be together on Father's Day. It was really nice. It was my little granddaughter's very first cruise. She's 3 months old.
That's right.
Congratulations to her. So that's great to see the effort that was made by our police department, our leadership, police chief, Mike DeLuiso, so many folks involved in the planning of all that went into that day. Joe Demolowitz, the businesses as well, the vendors. We didn't have a single incident.
I know.
Not a single incident. And that's really tremendous.
That's right.
So, I really think that we couldn't have done a better job, and I'm very proud.
Sticker program worked out well,
Sticker
the parking,
program.
so, yeah, with no incidents and no complaints that I've heard, so.
Right.
Excellent, yeah, great coordination.
Speaking of Winthrop Ferry, I know in the future we'll have more discussions about the ferry, but, as of yesterday and today, we're averaging about 130 to 140 riders on our ferry on a daily basis, and hopefully that continues and to grow. We need to get to 170 to break even, just to keep that in mind. That's our number on a daily basis, and so it's getting there.
Yeah.
So we're excited about the prospects there. I'm discussing with Commissioner Roy at DCR, hopefully a resolution around the infrastructure needs on Shore Drive. We've come up with a plan that I hope we can have some positive report on. I'll be talking with him tomorrow more in detail about it. The idea is to have DCR installed, but we purchase the main that needs to be installed there, because as it stands now, as I mentioned last meeting, the main is too shallow and too old, and it'll be crushed as that project goes forward. So it's vitally important that we get that water main fixed and installed. It's a lengthy run. So probably we'd use MWRA bond funding for SRF funding for it under our cap, and that'll be a proposal that'll come to the council for approval. But it would basically be somewhere in the order of 12 to 1,500 linear feet of water main, 8-inch water main, new service for those properties along that main. And they'll hopefully install it as their project goes forward. But more to come on that. As I said, I've already mentioned the peer recovery coach process is underway, and we're more to report on that in the future. I handed out a bike path letter that was submitted for consideration to MBTA as well as to MassDOT and Boston for connection of the bike path in Boston to Winthrop. That was an excellent letter. Thank you to Julia Wallace and others who participated in developing that letter.
Yeah.
I was happy to get an email, and I forwarded it to the council from MBTA about the real-time predictive technology that they're deploying. So you can now see where the bus is and know where it is on your phone, and sort of it'll help you become a more predictable rider on that for the road.
And we did have some discussion with the chairman of the Transportation Committee for kind of upgrading us so we'll be able to use transfers and some technology that hasn't come forward yet.
Right.
So we're working through town manager and Transportation Committee to see if we can get that happening a little bit more, a little bit quicker.
Right. So more to come there, but I think that they have been listening to the town, and they've incorporated some thoughts from the town with respect to their technology. I gave you out some reports from department heads for your review, and we'll be looking for, as soon as we can, resolution on the landscape architecture matter so that we can bring that forward to have the council appropriate the dollars necessary to fund that. So I would ask the Economic Development Subcommittee Chair woman to maybe give me a call, and we'll get together and go through those our responses and see, have an evaluation of them, and then determine who to select for that, and then put that forward as it's times of the essence.
Yeah, times of the essence, so we'll try to get that going.
That's my report.
Yes, it's great, thank you, town manager. Any questions from the council?
Just a kind of an odd one, that with the Echo Park, one of the constituents wanted to know how tall that bridge is that connects that initial park to the other pathway.
The one that exists there now?
No, the one that's going to be built.
We have to stay within the permit limits of, it's somewhere, it does vary, but it's somewhere between 12 and 12 and a half feet, because it's an ACEC, and we need to be sensitive to the light and the height.
So it does have
and
to be
tidal.
higher.
Right,
Okay.
so
No,
it's a
that's-
very, they tell us how tall it can be. We don't tell the DEP, they tell us, and they have. And it's set at a very specific level so that we don't negatively impact what's on the, in the marsh.
Yeah.
But we also are high enough so that we don't get impacted by storm flow. And so it's about 13 feet in height.
Thank you.
Anything else from council? If not, school committee update. I attended a school committee meeting last night. They recognized the Middle School Drama Society. They're recipients of the gold medal at the Winthrop Middle School Drama Festival, which we held here. We hosted, which I didn't realize. It's the third year in a row that they've won the gold medal drama festival. So they all got an award, and Superintendent Massaro was there to recognize each one of them. Also, talked about Viking Pride donations, $42,000 donation from Viking Pride to the schools. Most of that was for transportation. They also adopted a wellness policy, which was adopted yesterday, and I think that was it. We also recognized John Massaro with the 6 years committed to the Winthrop school system and to the town of Winthrop. That's my report. Old business. I'll ask Counselor down the end, Counselor Nick.
Coming from the Finance Committee, we have several motions that will require voice votes. And the first one is the Finance Committee moves that the Town Council transfer from General Stabilization Fund number 932, the amount of $75,000 to fund the Ferry Enterprise Fund 660 for the balance of FY 2017, or take any other action relative thereto.
Comes from committee. No second is needed. Roll call? We need a roll call on it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, just
Yeah.
discussion on it,
Yes.
just for clarification that we have talked about this, it's been in committee for a while, and, our philosophy is that this is in lieu of a check that
Right.
we feel pretty confident is coming from the state through Quincy, and that when this check comes, the check will be put into general fund, and then we will ask for it to be transferred back to the general stabilization to make this whole.
Yeah. Correct, Jim or Michael?
That's correct. We've asserted that.
Right, this
Yeah.
is to avoid a revenue deficit at the end of the year. We are 10 days away from the end of the fiscal year, and it is not terribly likely that we will get the $75,000 in the next 10 days. So in order to avoid hitting our balance sheet and then impacting our free cash next year, we're making this happen now.
So this runs parallel with the grant that we're hoping for. The state hasn't really reconciled, so
Right.
all of this is kind of housekeeping in anticipation, with some anxiety, but.
Yes.
Roll call?
Council Ringman?
Yes.
Council Calla?
Yes.
Council Terry?
Yes.
Council Boyajin?
Yes.
Council Barone?
Yes.
Council Del Vento?
Yep.
Vice President Boncory?
Yes.
President Sanford?
Yes. Unanimous? Next item, Council?
Next item is from the Finance Committee, move that the Town Council transfer $41,256 from Capital Stabilization Fund 964 to the General Fund Special Article to fund the pickup truck for school custodial services, or take any other action relative thereto.
Comes out of committee, we're favorable?
It came out of committee 2-1 favorable.
Favorable. Any comments? Council Terry?
So this was, just to recap, this is a truck that the School Building Assistance Committee approved to purchase as part of the school building project. We were told by the construction manager that this was a relatively normal thing that was done in almost all of, if not all of his projects. I was, and I believe the committee has been under the impression that this has been paid from the School Building Assistance Committee. So now, several months later, we were told that this was not allowed to come out of the, well, we were told we had an opinion that it was not allowed to come out of the bonding that the town voted for. So now it's being asked to be paid for out of the Capital Stabilization Fund. Now, I was told today that this has never been paid for. I was under the impression, I was told that the SBAC, I was told from our construction manager that this has been paid. So if we do approve this tonight, I would like clarification because the balance in the school building fund should be $41,256 more than what we've been told it is. I still believe that this should come out of the bonding. This is what we voted for. This is what the committee voted for. So I just want to make it clear that this is the process that's gone through.
Some clarification, Michael?
So if I may follow up on that, we received the opinion from the Department of Revenue, who is our regulatory body. They set the rules of municipal finance operating under Mass General Law, Chapter 44. Chapter 44, Section 20, Section 7 and 8 cover the treatment of bond proceeds and what you can and cannot do with bond proceeds. It sets out the limits. The general limit is that you can't borrow for more than the useful life of an asset. So you couldn't have a 30-year loan on a vehicle because a vehicle is not expected to last 30 years. That's the logic that DOR is using in saying that we cannot use these 20-year bond proceeds for the purchase of a vehicle because the useful life of a vehicle is not 20 years. That opinion was given to me verbally by DOR. We also have an opinion in writing from James Powers of Powers and Sullivan, our auditor, saying the same thing, that we cannot use these bond proceeds to pay for that. I have not received an opinion from bond counsel on this, but to be completely honest, if bond counsel says yes, that doesn't actually mean anything since the other two have said no. It's really if any one of these organizations say no, then really we can't do it. So this was voted in good faith from the SBAC with the belief that it could be paid out of project funds. Unfortunately, that does not seem to fit. And the truck was purchased, a purchase order was issued. That bill has not been paid. The truck was released to us because we issued a purchase order, but the vendor has not received the actual payment for the vehicle as of yet.
I'm sorry, you got a follow-up? Go ahead.
Just a question, is this vehicle going to be used to maintain the school?
This vehicle is currently being used
It is
to
currently
maintain the
to
schools.
maintain the schools, okay.
Anything else, John?
No.
Councilor
Now,
Taylor?
this vehicle is purchased for the school, for the high school, not for any other schools, and that's why.
Mhm.
And similarly, how we had bought over $1 million worth of computers, which do not have a life of 20 years. Mine's lucky if it lasts a year. And also snow blowers and other things that do not have a life of the length of the bond. So again, we have been told, and there have been many projects, every school building project that has been done in the last 5 years has bought a vehicle which has been paid for by the bond. That's all.
And that may very well be true because it just wasn't noticed. Now, the auditors, DOR, they're aware of this. They will be looking for this. If this is in, it will cause an issue.
So to speak to Councilor Lettieri's concern about an increase of $41,000, $41,256, should that not then be in the fund? That other fund?
In the school building fund?
Yes.
Yes, it should.
So is it?
I have not checked the balance of that fund as of yet. I know that we are nearing the end of all of the payments, so I just haven't checked it to see where we are with the final reconciliation. We're going to be starting the audit process with the MSBA shortly, so yes, this 41,000 would be in that funds because it hasn't been spent from there.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a point of clarification, any remaining balance in that fund, if it's a capital bondable project, can these funds then get turned back over for reappropriation by the council? So it's kind of a little bit of a wash, if you will, if there is the surplus at the end of the day, that the council can redeploy that surplus for other purchases. So I don't think that the money can go back into the stabilization fund. It has to be used for another bondable project.
Okay.
Of which we have plenty.
Yeah.
Just one more question. So someone said it was only, the vehicle was only supposed to be used for the high school,
Yes.
but if it comes out of different funds and it's not coming out of the school building fund, can it be used for all of the schools? I mean,
Then it could be.
utilized for,
That's a good point, yeah.
And the vehicle was outfitted with a plow and a lift gate with the intent of being able to plow out the school parking lots to alleviate some pressure from the DPW who has to plow the rest of the town.
just a little comment, the DOI doesn't realize that we do have trucks that last 30 years. So
Yes, but that's
we
not
should
their
bring them down to the
DPW. Okay, any other questions regarding the $41,256 roll call?
Councilor Ringman?
Yes.
Councilor Callow? Yes. Councilor Terry?
No.
Councilor Boyajin?
Yes.
Councilor Barone?
Yes.
Councilor Del Vento?
Yeah.
Vice President Boncory?
Yes.
President Sanford?
Yes.
Passes.
And I'd like to recognize Councilor Terry's no vote, and I understand where he's coming from with that, especially when you make reference to computers, snow blowers, and other things. So, thank you, Councilor Terry.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, Councilor Del Vento.
Just want to make sure I don't miss any tonight. I'm going to go to the council move that $50,000 from the Building Stabilization Fund 965 to new special article in the general fund to be known as FY17 gazebo repair Ingleside Park, or take any other action relative thereto.
That comes with a favorable
Favorable
recommendation.
recommendation from council, from finance.
Okay, we need a roll call?
Just a quick point on that, too.
Yeah, hold on 1 second, I'm sorry.
And I know Stephen mentioned earlier, and I think Councilor Del Vento also did, that this is $50,000 for the gazebo, which is about $30,000 in repairs to the gazebo, and an additional $20,000, which is also going to be matched by the police department
Correct.
for a grant that they receive for $20,000, which is going to enable us. Right now, there is fencing or whatever you want to call it there.
Wooden rail.
Wooden rail that's on all the way down Walden Street. So that will now continue up Lincoln and all the way down Brookfield and all the way down the access road to the back of the middle school, if you say. So this does not just encompass the gazebo, but has a lot of useful life in this $50,000.
Which is, great safety protection for vehicles traveling, riding where they shouldn't be riding, things like that. Next. I'm sorry, yeah.
Councilor Ringman?
Yes.
Councilor Callow? Yes. Councilor Terry?
Yes.
Councilor Boyajin?
Yes.
Councilor Barone?
Yes.
Councilor Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Boncory?
Yes.
President Sanford?
Yes,
Passes.
unanimous.
Okay. From the Finance Committee, move that the town council vote to transfer $7,552.19 from Fund 536 FY15 Child Safety Grant to Fund 529 FY16 Child Safety Grant as a housekeeping article, or take any other action relative thereto.
Comes out of committee.
Positive committee.
Favorable. And that does not need to be roll call.
Nope.
Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Yep.
Passes.
Did we get all the finance ones?
Yeah.
Yes. I rest.
Next on the agenda is adopt public access records.
Mr. President, coming from the Rules and Ordinance Committee, the recommendation of the committee is to accept as circulated the Town of Winthrop Public Access Guidelines.
Comes out with favorable recommendation.
Yes.
Any conversation from the council? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next on the agenda is Verizon Pole, Veterans Road.
Mr. President, coming
Yes.
out of committee, as we had previously mentioned, the committee recommends that we positive recommendation for the town of, for the Verizon Pole petition, Veterans Road at 130 Shirley and 130 Shirley Street.
Okay, coming out of committee?
Mr. President, point of order?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask my friend, the vice president, on this petition, do these petitions need a roll call vote? I forget.
I believe we do.
Okay.
Last one we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Council Ingman?
Yes.
Council Callum?
Yes.
Council Terry?
Yes.
Council Boyashin?
Yes.
Council Barone?
Yes.
Council Del Vento?
Yes.
Vice President Boncory?
Yes.
President Sanford?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Good catch.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure can.
On this Verizon pole, is it Verizon or National Grid, right? National Grid?
National.
It's a grid pole.
It's a grid, yeah.
It's a grid. Is
It's
it?
National
Yeah,
Grid
it's
pole.
National Grid.
There was an issue with the pole in Mike Delahanty's yard.
I'm sorry, say that again?
There was an issue with the
There was,
pole
yes.
in Mike's yard.
Yes.
Does this now replace, I mean, is that pole gonna go away, or
That's a
take that down?
complicated area with a complicated situation, and I don't have the answer, so let me see if I
That
can
is
get.
leaning quite a bit.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's
A lot of wires attached to it, so I
It's
didn't
a
know
whole
if they were gonna
situation
reattach.
over there
Yeah.
that I think involves a lot.
Yeah.
So this was really to provide service, as was mentioned, to the property.
Mr. President? Yeah, we had discussed that last time we looked at the plans. This is to bring a service into, for the business there, for the property there. It's strictly independent. It's going to be just a...
Strictly independent, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
a little one-shot
separate,
one.
yeah. Okay. But we'll keep us informed,
Yeah.
we'll check into the situation Council Calla just brought up. Next is a Public Safety Building Committee. We talked about that. Council Calla, I think, is that something you're looking to chair, or?
Well, we're going to have a meeting, and we're going to discuss it, and
Decide.
I've already had some people that have approached me. I was going to speak to you about it, and just to see, how many people, who we should select, what their requirements should be. But
And this is for the possibility of a public safety building, fire,
Right.
police combination.
Right, exactly, which I had thought initially maybe the middle school could have been a good place for them. But, even if where they are, that can be all redone,
Yeah. So we'll look forward to
I mean,
just
they've got a building that's like almost 100 years
Oh, I know.
old, so they really are in desperate need of a new building. So that's another thing that we're going to have to put
Yeah.
on the radar.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we'll look forward to.
But we're going to have a
presenting
meeting in a couple
for
of
a
weeks,
formal-
and we'll put that on the agenda as well. And
Great.
give me some guidance on that, okay?
Right, now, next on the agenda is a Precinct 5 appointment. We did have, it's on here for discussion, however, we did make sure that we posted it. It was on Facebook, it was on the blog, it wasn't in the transcript, I know that. We haven't had a lot of interest, but we've had some serious candidates who have submitted applications. Two are both are sitting in the audience. I thank you both for coming. Both have very good resumes, both quality candidates. I was a Precinct 5 counselor for 11 years now, so it's kind of my precinct, so I know either one of these two gentlemen would be a great fit for them, and I look forward to working with either one of them. So what I'm going to do is accept nominations from the council.
Mr. President?
Council Deventer.
I'd like to nominate Peter Christopher for the council seat at Precinct 5. I've known Pete for a long time, as well as his family, but one thing that I wasn't going to get anecdotal, but I am. Over the years, Pete has usually called me on Wednesday mornings, asking me questions about what we did, because he was watching the meeting and wanted to inquire about an item we voted on and did. As well as that, Pete's currently in law school. He took some time off from school after he graduated UMaine, worked for a while, and now he's doing some work as well as going to law school, and I think he'd be a phenomenal asset, lifelong resident of the precinct.
So there's a nomination on
I'll
the floor.
second that nomination.
Seconded by Councilor Braun. Can we have a...
I'd like to nominate Steve Koudelakis.
Okay.
Forgive me mispronouncing your last Koudelakis. I think I'm so pleased that we have two really fantastic candidates applying for this vacancy. I look forward to working with both of them on town issues going forward. I'm really excited about it. But Steve has been an active participant in a lot of the meetings regarding the Center Business District and improving economic development in that area, and I think he would also be a great fit.
Also invested in a business in the center, and again, has been at many, if not all of the meetings. So we got two great candidates. What we'll do is we'll start off with the first nomination. I'm sorry, do we need a second? Do we have a second it? Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to close nominations.
Motion's been seconded. All in favor of closing nominations? Say
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now what we'll do is we'll have a vote on the first nomination, which would be Peter Christopher. If we could do either, okay, yeah. Okay, so all in favor?
Can you tell me?
Okay. So it's
Each counselor
Counselor
okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Okay. Counselor Ringman.
Mr. Koudelakis?
Counselor Calla. Pete Christopher. Counselor Terry.
Peter Christopher.
Counselor Boyajian.
Mr. Koudelakis, pronouncing it right.
Counselor Barone.
Mr. Christopher.
Counselor Del Vento.
Pete Christopher.
Vice President Boncory.
Peter Christopher.
President Sanford.
Peter Christopher.
Peter Christopher is nominated, 6-2.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, Peter, and thank you, Steve, for submitting. And you can go up to the town hall tomorrow, the next day, if you're sworn in. Congratulations. And Steve, I hope you're still involved and stay involved. We need good people.
Nominations to close in September.
That's right.
Running for
That's right,
that
yeah, so
seat,
make
but
sure,
the people
yeah.
decide.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. New business, 2017 committee reappointments. I think I have that list here. I'll run down the list, but we're gonna take two of them out of order because they are policy-making boards. One is the Board of Appeals. Motion to nominate Brian, or continue Brian's, or do I nominate? Nominate Brian. Yeah. Okay, nominate Brian Beatty and Irene Dwyer, we can do both of them the same, to the Board of Appeals. That's a motion, yeah. And also, okay, we'll do them both. The Planning Board would be Dave Stasio, Gina Demento, and Vinnie Sabula.
I make a motion to accept the president's appointments to policy-making boards, the appeals board and the planning board.
I have a second. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Now what I'll do is I'll read down the list of the following committees and commissions. And we'll take them all as one vote. Beautification Committee, Ellen Peabody. Board of Assessors, Palio Franzese. Board of Registrars, Denise Mahoney. Finance Commission, Karen Chavez. Conservation Committee, Norm Hyatt. Stephen Machinsky, Karen Nguyen. Council on Aging, Alice Haskell. Judy Van Coleman. Harbor Management, Don Kopak, Ralph Duplin, Davis Proctor. Historical Commission, Judy Bono. Memorials Committee, Rich Farino. Scholarship Committee, Kanji Kafuni, John Dowd. Winthrop Airports Hazards Committee, Anthony Mazadhad and Jerome Falbo. Winthrop Disability, Linda McGeorge, Richard Courier, Gerald DeFranzi.
I make a motion to accept the president's appointments to the non-policy making but advisory committees.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? I know there's some folks who are interested in some of the other committees. Please apply on the web.
Yep.
Apply.
We'll list them on the web too,
What vacancies are coming up. So any vacancies that are coming up will be on the web, the town website. Please feel free to apply. We've got some great qualified people involved now. We'd like to get some more of you, especially the younger people. It's important we get some younger folks in there, so thank you. Next thing on the agenda under new business is form a combined committee. Council Raymond had discussed that. I think what I'd like to do is maybe postpone it till our next meeting. You and I can discuss it, and then we can kind of go over what the makeup of that committee should be as far as numbers. And that was a parking study committee, which we reported on earlier. TSAC, Transportation, Planning Board, and Citizens Advisory Committee. So we'll make that appointment in our next meeting along with the makeup.
Okay.
Discuss July town meeting dates. I don't know if there's anything, our next meeting would be scheduled for
July.
July 4th is the actual meeting.
July 4th.
4th, no?
So,
4th and the 18th.
and the 18th.
It would be the 4th
So
and the 18th.
needless to say, we're not going to meet on the 4th. Do we need anything time sensitive that we need to meet in July or on the 18th?
I would say it would be prudent to have one meeting in
Yeah.
July.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Before,
Yeah.
because we're looking for the matter of the landscape architect and the
Okay,
plan to be
great,
considered.
yeah.
All right.
Makes sense.
You think the 11th or the 18th would be better, Jim?
I'd say the 11th.
The
Oh,
11th.
really? Okay.
Okay, I move that we have one meeting in July, and that meeting be held on July 11th.
Do I have a second? Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, unanimous. Public comment?
Mr. President, I have, under new business, I have a motion.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Counsel.
I'm going to read it, then I'll hand it to the clerk, because this way here, it's a little easier. A motion that the council establish a community center development committee. Such committee shall have up to 9 members and be appointed as per section 210B of the charter. Council president shall appoint a chair and 8 additional members to 3-year terms. The committee shall advise and assist the council with the planning, design concepts, and financing options for new community center and associated development on the site of the old middle school and skating rink on Pauline Street.
The motion's been made. Do I have a
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor?
I'm sorry, could you
Counsel?
repeat it? I didn't catch the whole thing.
Okay. Motion that the council establish
On either side.
a community center development committee. Such committee shall have up to 9 members and be appointed as per section 210B of the charter. That's non-policy making. The council president shall appoint a chair and 8 additional members to 3-year terms. The committee shall advise and assist the council with the planning, design concepts, and financing options for a new community center and associated development on the site of the old middle school and skating rink on Pauline Street.
And is the idea to refer this to the Committee on Committees? Or,
I was hoping to get it done so that they could actually start
So that
working.
you get 20 committee at the next meeting.
At our next meeting. Thoughts?
I think we should spend a little bit of time thinking about sort of the qualifications and backgrounds of folks we need to have on that committee before we put it together.
That would be up to the council president to appoint.
Do you want to take
You could use
council
your
privilege?
council privilege to
2 weeks.
till the next.
Yes, I'll put that on.
Okay.
Before we did that, though, I wanted to amend it to say community center hand-rake committee, because they may be, so it would be the whole thing.
I will include, I would accept that as,
As
if
an
you want to vote
amendment?
as an amendment,
Let's vote,
or if we
yeah.
can just write it in, that's fine.
We have an amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we have the main motion, and then council. Go ahead. Main motion. All, it's been
No, we can't
made,
vote.
so, oh, you're taking council.
I don't want to delay
Yeah,
anything,
no, no,
I just don't,
yeah.
I don't want to, I want to make sure we put the proper thought into sort of,
Similar to the other combined committee.
right, right.
Okay, that's fine, yeah. And we can discuss that if you bring that information forward. What any one of the councils think the makeup should be. We've got a good nucleus of folks, obviously, so we want to make sure we're consistent. Elizabeth's opinion? Oh, Colin, Charlie, okay, thank you. Mary, okay. Let me just go down there 1 second. Under new business, a motion that the town council affirm the appointment made by the town council president of Mary Vitale, advancing her to a full member of the Council on Aging.
Second motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mary. All right, anything else we have? Public comment, did we get through public comment? No, okay, public comment?
Hello, everybody.
How are you?
I have a public comment. My name is Lena Rosioni, precinct 5. I wanted to take a minute, it's the end of the night, so I don't want to take up too much time. I want to speak specifically about the Recovery Coach program, obviously. I am beyond appreciative of all of the hard work that everybody has been doing up until this point in relation to the program and seeing it continue in our community. I will have to say that I am a little disappointed to hear that the program is being pitched to agencies. I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm sure we'll learn more as things continue. But as we have talked a lot about the implementation of this program within our community 2.5 years ago and the uniqueness of our program, seeing it turn to an agency isn't the true model. So I would encourage before any decision is made as to whether that actually transpires or not, that there be further conversation with some folks that understand both models, that understand the model that is provided through an agency and then the model that our current community provides. I think that is invaluable and extremely important for everybody to understand in order to properly make a decision. So I would encourage everybody to communicate with Judge McDonald over at the East Boston Courthouse. He loves our program and works very closely with other agencies that also provide peer recovery coach supports and will be able to help you guys understand the difference in the models and what's provided. And I also, would encourage you guys to talk to Paul Alves, who most of you probably don't know, but he is the recovery coach supervisor. But in addition to being the recovery coach supervisor, he also was instrumental in bringing this model to the state of Massachusetts. So in terms of understanding where the model came from and how the model is designed to be used, he has a plethora of information that he would be able to provide everybody to have a better understanding of what that means. We've talked a lot about wanting the program to sustain itself and to stay true to its truest form and the way that it was designed. And I'm afraid, as someone that's been involved in the program from the beginning, that if we turn to an agency type model, then we are undoing all the work that we've done for the past 2.5 years. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that happen. So I know I've said it 1,000 times, and I'm more than available to everybody and to help any of you guys connect with any of the individuals that are seeing both sides of the work that we're doing, so that you guys can make the best educated decision for the community and what needs to happen.
Could you just send Paul's contact info to the council?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Anything else? Michael, sir?
So
So, Michael Lucero again, Precinct 6. I just wanted to make one comment about the committee talking about the former middle school site and how we're going to name or brand what was shown today, because that was really something for everyone. And, you know, as Councilman Ingram pointed out, getting the right skill set for everything, but there was no mention just previously about the economic development piece of what was shown. So I want to make sure that that is also something that's incorporated into whatever that committee is. That's
Absolutely.
just not focused necessarily on rink and community center, but also the piece that's going to pay for that.
Right.
Right. So it's something.
I agree, yeah. I don't think one can happen without the other, so I'm encouraged with the economic development side of it. Also, thank you, Michael. Anything else? Peter Christopher?
Pete Christopher, Precinct 5. I just wanted to thank the council for that vote of confidence. I've enjoyed the conversations that I've had with everybody, members of the community and the council as well. I look forward to working with all of you in the coming next 6 months and hopefully beyond. But thank you again, and I look forward to working with everybody.
Thank you, Peter. Any other public comment?
John, there's a seat right here.
That's right. You get to sit next to,
Right here, you see.
and in spite of whether you want to or not, next to the vice president. So. Anything else from public comment? If not, we'll close that part of it. Public relations or upcoming events? Anyone have anything?
I just wanted to, the Prizorama raffle is going to be on Friday, June 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Point Shirley Association. It's a fundraiser to benefit the Horribles Parade. To donate or to purchase tickets, you can contact Pat McGee at 846-0273. And then the other thing was I just wanted to let you know, the 8th grade trip to Washington was a huge success. You know, actually one of the best behaved classes of all, and unfortunately the last one that Superintendent Lucero is going to be on. But again, it continues to actually the most kids ever to be on the trip with 124, I think it was. So.
Very good.
I just have one thing to say.
Councilor Callan?
This was brought up to me just recently, actually. The site of the old middle school, old high school on Pauline Street, the one that's now, you know, in question as to what we're going to do with it. Almost 25 years ago, a young boy died here in Winthrop. His name was Michael Salucci, and he went to that school. And the town rallied around the family, and they put a plaque, they made a memorial for him right in front of that school with a beautiful blue spruce tree. Lately, it has not been maintained. I don't know if they're letting the area go. I'm glad we have a new truck. Maybe they can get over there and do something. But my question is, if development or if the building's going to be torn down or, you know, whatever, what's going to happen to that? Is that something that they can work around it and keep it? Or is it something that maybe we could look into finding a spot at the brand new middle school and maybe transporting it over there, and maybe, I don't know if you can take that tree or plant a new tree. The father would love the same tree, but is that something we could really look into and see what we could do?
The town manager just made recommendation, Memorials Committee, maybe?
Yeah.
And make sure
They would take a look at that situation and...
Who's the chair on that? Do you
I
know?
think it's Ro Mazzucchelli.
Oh, good. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I'll reach out to her.
And they would look at that, the sensitivity of the situation. You know, I think it's a little premature. We don't know what's going to happen there. So
Right.
we could probably, you know, make the new committee well aware of that particular situation. And if it became clear that that area was vitally important relative to the footprint of whatever gets proposed, that an alternate site would be located, and then a proper, event occur, to celebrate the life of.
And I did mention
Michael.
that to his dad and said that that is a possibility. So, but I told him I would bring it up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Both our kids went to school with
Yes.
Michael, so it was a sad time. A great memorial to him.
So we would ask the Memorials Committee to look at an alternate site.
Okay.
Anything else, Councilor? Did you have something?
There's an important meeting, a DCR community meeting tomorrow night at the Senior Center. I believe it starts at 6:30 regarding the improvements to Winthrop Shore Drive. I think there's going to be major construction work there coming shortly, so I would encourage everyone to attend.
Anything else from council? If not, the council anticipates going into executive session to discuss strategy as follows. Matters to be discuss strategy in respect to litigation. Discussion of these matters in open meeting could have detrimental effects on the process. Town council will enter into executive session and return to open session for adjournment only. Do I have a motion to go into executive
I'll
session?
make the motion with that language.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Roll call. Yeah, roll call.
Counselor Ringman?
Yes.
Counselor Callow? Yes. Counselor Terry?
Yes.
Counselor Boyajin?
Yes.
Counselor Barone?
No.
Yes.
Counselor Del Vento?
If I have to.
Vice President Montgomery?
Yes.
President Sanford?
Yes.
We are in
We're in
executive session.
executive session.